Hello, friends, and welcome once again. This is a live edition of Syracuse Sports, Syracuse basketball postgame, presented by Krause Health, the exclusive healthcare partner for Syracuse Athletics. My name is Brent Axe, and we're coming off of the fourth straight loss for Syracuse basketball, the first four-game losing streak for Syracuse basketball under Adrian Autry, believe it or not. Syracuse goes down to Raleigh, and Quadir Copeland and company enact a little revenge on Syracuse. They rub some salt in the wound, a revenge game. We've got some Syracuse Sports Insiders that have some very creative titles for this as well, and we'll get to our Syracuse Sports Insiders coming up because that means you have direct text message access to me anytime, including during games, and certainly you guys were fired up and opinionated about this one. A 20-point loss to NC State. 88-68 was your final score in Raleigh. As noted, Syracuse has now lost four straight games. As January comes to a close, they've got one more this month against Notre Dame on Saturday at the JMA Wireless Dome. And I'll tell you what, guys, Notre Dame just took Virginia to double overtime. Virginia did end up winning that game 100-97. Notre Dame, not going to be a pushover on Saturday, even though they occupy some space at the bottom of the ACC, but that is where Syracuse is, dare I say, free-falling once again. I got my friend Tom Petty over my shoulder here. They are free-falling, and now the waiting will be the hardest part to see when a decision is made about Adrian Autry as the head coach of the Syracuse basketball team, because it is getting harder and harder to see him saving his job like sands through the hourglass. These are the days of his lives and his life as the head coach at Syracuse. It's just harder to envision him staying longer. Now, there are some circumstances that surround this, as I've talked about in some previous pods and have written about. There's a leadership change going on at Syracuse University right now as Kent Severud is moving on to Michigan. He's serving out the rest of this school year, but he's a lame duck chancellor. When does the new chancellor get put in? Does that chancellor keep the current leadership in place at Syracuse University? So when we're talking about making that call on Adrian Autry, who actually gets to make that call? Will the new chancellor bring back John Wildhack as his athletic director? So while Wildhack is still in the chair and still has the power, the pressure is only going to build here on Wildhack to either make a decision about Autry's future or put out some kind of public statement about what they're going to do about this job. I mean, technically they can still, I try not to, snicker as I say this, but, look, if they went on the heater of all heaters here, they could play their way back into NCAA tournament conversations. But guys, let's be real here. With 10 games to go now, there's just no room for error. This was a quad one loss. These were coming in were quad one opportunities. But if you're going to play the way that Syracuse did tonight, once again, predictably falling apart in the second half of a game, how can I believe that you're going to do that against North Carolina twice and Duke and SMU and Virginia at the beginning of February? Because keep in mind here, guys, the schedule only gets harder. Those opportunities can no longer be labeled that if you're going to show up on the road like this in a revenge game, knowing the emotions that would be there with NC State in Quadir Copeland. And Copeland, the former Orange guard, goes out tonight. He scores 19 points. He's their second leading scorer. He dishes out 9 assists. He was jawing the whole game with JJ, with other players. He was hamming it up. He knew where the camera was at all times, kind of flashing his jersey, and had some great plays right down Broadway where he was throwing down big jams, dishing out assists, drawing the defense, getting it out there, clearly outplayed, who wasn't his direct successor, of course, because there was a gap in between there, but between Quadir Copeland at point guard for NC State and Nathan George at point guard, who just continues to be an issue. Let's be honest here, for Syracuse at point guard, there was no contest here. So talk about rubbing salt in the wound. You ever drive by one of those DPW depots these days and you see that giant mound of road salt, especially these days, with the snow and the cold, or we're in the midst of a Arctic freeze in central New York right now with the temperatures not getting that much higher than single digits these days. That's how much salt a loss like this gets rubbed in the wound when it's a guy in Quadir Copeland, who Syracuse told 2 years ago, for legitimate reasons, by the way, okay? Quadir Copeland had some academic issues. Quadir Copeland had some off-court issues. Look, nothing personal. He was a delight to deal with. I really enjoyed talking to him in the locker room. He was always honest. He was always enthusiastic, even in losses, finding the positive side of life. I just don't think he's like the Joker, the original Joker from the Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson Batman. You know, you can't wipe the smile off his face. That is Quadir Copeland. You can't wipe the smile off that kid's face. You can't. He's one of those guys. If he's on your team, boy, do you love him. But he is an irritant and somebody who's just always going to get in your grill and talk some smack and do his thing if he's on the other team. Look, as Chris Carlson pointed out in a terrific story he wrote on syracuse.com, which you guys should check out if you haven't, Will Wade, the NC State coach, who was also his coach at McNeese State, had to kick him off the team for, I think, a little less than a week to set him straight. But that is the point. He did set him straight. And now Quadir Copeland is not only kicking ass at NC State, he really went out there and kicked some ass tonight with 19 and 9 assists. And Syracuse fans, as some of our insiders are going to talk about here, really missed. It's hard to miss somebody when they're right in front of you, but you get the point. Missing him in the Syracuse uniform. Judah Mintz was out there tweeting about it. Former teammates, of course, and best friends at Syracuse, and what could have been certainly comes to mind. But I think it's interesting that through all the discussions we've had about the ups and downs of the Autry era, it has never been lower than this. They have lost 4 straight. They have not held a lead in the last 2 games that they have played. Syracuse did not hold a lead in this game, and they did not hold a lead in the Miami game. And, of course, you lose to Boston College, which is just one of those WTF losses you can't have. And think of the different world we lived in when they lost that game and this losing streak started 4 games ago, right? About the margin for error and talking about these quad one opportunities as opportunities. How can you feel that way when this team just consistently comes out in the second half, gets outwit, gets outcoached, gets outplayed? So this was a game in the second half tonight where NC State outscores Syracuse 47-31. All told, they out-rebounded Syracuse 45-33. Let's dig in on the second half stats for that. So NC State had 29 rebounds in the second half. Syracuse had 15. They got out-rebounded 29-15 in the second half. The most consistent thing about Syracuse, the identity for Syracuse basketball in a year, as I have screamed from the rooftops many times, Groundhog Day is approaching, and Groundhog Day for Syracuse basketball is they do not have a discernible offensive identity. And that really reared its head in this game tonight. Not that it hasn't in prior games, but tonight, what you saw from NC State was just consistent quality looks. Syracuse missed a lot of quality looks. They missed a lot of bunnies. I mean, guys, there's a point. They're only down by 4 at halftime. They're in this thing. You're looking at the stats and saying, okay, despite X, Y, and Z, they make a run here in the second half, which you almost, stop yourself from even getting that sentence out of your mouth because they have consistently proven they don't play well in the second half. If I'm not mistaken, this is the 11th second half, could be 12th actually, second half, somewhere in that area, that they have lost this year. When I asked Adrian Autry about that a couple of games ago, he gave me that's a good question, which is a stall tactic because he doesn't know the answer to that. And he still hasn't found the answers to get this team to play up to its capabilities in the second half. But the difference is, look at all the quality shots. And it's as simple as NC State moves the ball crisply, they move the ball confidently, and they know where they're going. They have a plan, they have a structure. Will Wade has them locked in. Syracuse is still a team that is, I'm going to use the U2 song again, they still haven't found what they're looking for. And it's January 27th, and we still have a team. Now, look, Donnie Freeman at 24 and 10 tonight. He put on his Superman cape. Teams are going to hound him defensively. They're going to basically look at Syracuse and say, look, hey, Donnie Freeman can go out there and do first-round draft pick things and score 24 and 10, but if you don't get help elsewhere, it's not going to matter. So let's look elsewhere. J.J. Starling had 17 points tonight. He had to take 19 shots to get there. Compare that to Quadir Copeland, who had 19 points and took 9 shots to get there and also went 9 of 9 at the free throw line, drawing the whistles because, of course, hashtag free throws matter. Those are your 2 players in double figures. Donnie with 24, JJ with 17, whereas Williams had 23 to lead NC State. Quadir had 19. Lubin had 18. Sania comes in. Had a great second half. Syracuse just had a very hard time stopping him in the paint. He ends up with, felt like he had a hell of a lot more than 10 points in this game, right? NC State shoots 51%. Syracuse shoots 39%. 33 of 65, 26 of 67, almost the same amount of shots. But the amount of times that Syracuse wastes possessions, and there is a culprit who's on the wanted poster for this, and it's Nathan George. Nathan George tonight, 2 of 12, 0 of 4 from three-point range. He had 5 rebounds. He had 3 assists. He had 3 fouls, 2 turnovers. Felt like more than 2 turnovers because there are so many times, and again, do I hear I Got You, Babe in the background? It's Groundhog Day. There are so many times when Nathan George just drives in the paint, and he's not driving by anybody. He is driving Admiral Akbar time. It's a trap. He's just driving right into a trap. He's driving into double teams. He's driving into players that are 3, 4, 5 inches taller than him and just hoping he can kind of extend a shot over them. That's what J.J. Starling does. J.J. Starling is actually good at driving in the paint. You got to hand this to J.J. The best way I can describe this, he's one of the better players I've seen in the air. Like, J.J. gets in the air, and he could just, hang in the air for 4 or 5 seconds and just contort his body and shift around and do things while he's up and get a shot off. Nathan George cannot do that. How many times have we said this, guys, that Nathan George has to decide, and Adrian Autry, a former point guard himself, which makes this that much more disappointing that this team just does not play smart basketball when you had a smart point guard here at Syracuse running the show. But they're just a rudderless boat. They have no structure on offense. They don't move the ball. They dribble, dribble, dribble. 4 other guys are watching the dribbler and then often get caught and can't get to the rebound, as we saw it and went over the rebounding numbers overall in the second half. It's just a pattern over and over and over again. So we're at the point here where, look, these are now paid professionals. I feel bad for these players. It's not a lack of effort. I appreciate their honesty and what they say after games. They know they're in it. Now you're in a 4-game losing streak, heading into a home game on Saturday against Notre Dame, who I just noted, took Virginia to double overtime tonight. It should be a special day at the Dome in a sense that they're going to honor Lawrence Moten. But, man, you thought you heard some boos and some Fire Autry chants the other night. If this thing goes south again and Notre Dame comes in and controls this thing, we start seeing some of these patterns again. I mean, that student section is going to be ready, and not just them, fans. And right now, you still have some emotion, but apathy is just going to settle in here. And I said this on the last pod, and again, I'll try and find new and creative ways to have this discussion, but all people are going to want to talk about is the status of the head coach. The day-to-day of the basketball team will not be ignored. We will cover it. That's what we do, but it's just all going to be Charlie Brown's teacher, wah, 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 to a lot of people until they see something definitive about Autry's job. People are making lists about coaches that could take his place. Josh Schertz at St. Louis, Brian Hodson at South Florida, only a New York native, right? Tony Skinn at George Mason. They did a feature on Travis Steele, 20-0 at Miami of Ohio, right? People love Matt Langle at Colgate, Jerry McNamara. I get asked every day, what about Jerry coming back and coaching this team? It was down to him and Adrian when Jim Boeheim retired, if you could call it that, a few years ago. Jerry goes to Siena. Autry got the gig here. Is Mike Hopkins back in play? There are people that would love to see him come back. He is currently an assistant coach in the NBA, right? So it's going to be a discussion more about the future of Syracuse basketball, and there are 10 games to go. There's an entire month of basketball to be played. They have to play North Carolina twice. They have to play Duke, SMU, that Virginia team that we talked about. That February schedule is brutal, and it is going to be even harder for this team to get through with this black cloud in the room. It's not an elephant in the room anymore. Like, how do you get through that when all people are going to want to talk about is the status of the head coach? That is hard to get around. You can't escape that. You could, if you're living in a cave, I'll find you and send you DoorDash. You can't get away from this stuff these days, even if these guys stay off social media, which kids can't do these days. And someone's going to put in front of them one way or the other. They are not blind to that reality. And it's also a reality of you have players that you brought in from the portal and you are paying, and people recognize that and will treat it as such. We have always treated Syracuse sports as essentially our professional sports team in Syracuse, and now they are literally paid professionals. So that doesn't take away from anything that no one feels worse losing 4 games than they do. They are human beings, believe it or not. They still go to class and have to deal with all that, but that's what they sign up for. And I think everybody knew the pressure coming in. This was a year that Autry had to demonstrate he could put this team on a path to play meaningful games in March. NCAA tournament, March Madness. Nothing else matters, okay? They are falling off that path. And when we talked at the beginning of the season about what's the line, is it just tournament or bust? And my thoughts then were, look, if they're in the fight at the end and they just don't get in, draw a number at the number of wins, whatever the case may be, man, they just don't get in. Like, I think you'd have to have a conversation and consider giving Autry another season, right? But if they continue on this slide, now think about this. If you lose to Notre Dame, that's 5 in a row. And then I mentioned that schedule that's upcoming. Now, upsets happen. They're bound to win one of these games. But North Carolina at Virginia, right? Cal's a good team. The Chris Bell revenge game. Is he going to have a revenge game like Quadir Copeland did tonight? And that one is in the Dome, right? Look for him in the corner. That's where he'll be. Duke on that, like, it's hard to see this team not going on an extended losing streak if they lose to Notre Dame, even if they beat Notre Dame and they lose 6 of 7 and this pattern continues, people are just going to check out. The women's basketball team is well on a path to the NCAA tournament. They had a tough loss to North Carolina over the weekend in overtime. Heck of a game there, but that's a team that moves the ball, moves fast. They struggle at the three-point line sometimes, but Izoje is one of the most exciting players in all of college basketball, really, men's and women. She wins the Rookie of the Week in the ACC. Was it 6 times now? It's only news when she doesn't win the Rookie of the Week, right? So people are going to shift more of their attention over there. Not that you have to split hairs, but some people it's one or the other, right? It should have time for everything, but some people prioritize their time one way or the other. Uncle Brent is well entrenched getting ready for lacrosse season, which starts Sunday. Lacrosse season starts Sunday, guys. And this is one of the most interesting lacrosse schedules I've ever seen this team put together. There is not a gimme on that schedule. The expectations are through the roof. All the seniors and experience and talent that come back on this team. People are going to want to watch and follow what should be not only a winner, but a team that's capable of winning the national championship. And that is not hyperbole. That team is fully capable of winning the national championship. They got to beat Maryland and prove that they can get over that hump, but all those storylines will come. So you get what I'm saying, guys. People are not going to want to talk basketball anymore unless it is the subject of the head coach. They'll kind of like, you know, that great scene from Airplane when Leslie Nielsen comes in. I just want to tell you all, good luck. We're all counting on you. And he just keeps coming in and doing it. That is going to be the Syracuse fan base, just opening the door like, Autry still there? Yep. Okay. See you later. Like, that's just the reality of it. I'm not trying to pile on here, but that just everywhere you turn. I know social media can be what it is, but that's all they're talking about there. Podcasts, the people still talk at the water cooler at work. You know what I mean? Like when people talk at work, when people stop me at Wegmans, when you have a conversation, wherever you are, whatever you're doing about Syracuse basketball, what's going to be the first thing that comes up? Man, what's up with Autry, right? You can't get around that. So now it's basically on the leadership at Syracuse University, whoever that shall be these days, to make a decision about, can we ride this out for another month with all those games coming up, with the booze and the chance that will come on Saturday if things take a turn, and then make a decision? Or do you kind of get it out there and say, this is what we're going to do? Let's just get, I mean, you can't send the message that you're packing it in on January 27th when you're still technically in it. So from that standpoint, I get it. But a lot of people are just like, man, wake me up when Autry's not the coach anymore. And again, that sounds harsh, but stick a thermometer in the air. It might freeze if you're in certain parts of the country right now, including Syracuse. But seriously, stick a thermometer into the air of the Syracuse fan base, and that's what you're going to get back, right? So that doesn't, again, we'll track the team and we'll talk basketball and look at the ways they win and lose games. But see, that's the thing, guys. It's the same thing game in and game out. I wish I had something different to tell you. 2-3 zone, NC State had no trouble with it. Quadir Copeland certainly had no trouble with it. Found the weak part of the zone a number of times. The zone has to be, the zone is played effective when people move and are sharp and play that thing like their hair's on fire. Guys, Calvin Russell got into the game with, what was it, a minute 48 to go? The white flag goes up, you know you're down, and into the game comes, a minute 48 to go. You're down by 18. Bryce Zephyr comes in, and Zephyr actually had a good run in a more recent game. Maybe he should get out there more. He's a good defender. But Bryce Zephyr, Luke Fennell, remember him? Who maybe should get some more run coming up here. I mean, you're kind of running out of reasons not to play certain guys. Akir Soiree and Calvin Russell, the football player, comes into an ACC basketball game that should matter. And that's nothing against Calvin Russell, but this guy just parachuted in at the beginning of the semester. He's a football player put on the basketball roster just basically as a recruiting ploy. And a good one, by the way. You know, if you can get a football recruit at the high level that Calvin Russell's at because he can play on the basketball team, you do it every time. But that's not a guy you want playing any quality minutes in a game that should matter. And that's nothing against him. He's just not ready for that. So that's kind of where we're at here, with the schedule only getting more difficult, with this team not being able to show improvement in the things that cost them games. Ball movement, direction on offense. They're getting out rebounded. What were the 3-point shooting numbers tonight for Syracuse? Both teams at 7 threes, but Syracuse was 7 of 23. They were 7 of 24. I mean, it's not like NC State was lighting up the world there, but Syracuse has to be better. And NC State, by the way, is the best 3-point shooting team in the ACC. And they still won by 20. Imagine if they were hitting their threes. This thing could have been worse. But Syracuse is a team that has to shoot better than that from 3-point range. You have to have more than 2 scorers in double figures. This can't be the Donnie Freeman show. God bless Donnie Freeman and what he has done since he has come back, but obviously they've lost 4 in a row, and it's counterproductive in a way. How many shots did Nate Kings have tonight? Did I bring that up earlier? Sorry if I'm repeating myself. Nate Kings had 6 points. Nate Kings shot 2 of 5. What did William Kyle do tonight? 5 points, 2 of 2 from the field. How are you not working the ball into the paint more for William Kyle? And I get it's a small area of the paint. He's not somebody that can shoot away from the basket, unfortunately, which I get the athleticism and why Kyle's coming up in some NBA draft conversations, but he is a very limited offensive player. When you get him away from the hoop, you got to take some shots. But man, this team does so much iso ball, pick and roll stuff. How is he not getting open in the paint? He plays 27 minutes. Sadiq White is not developing as a freshman who is just off the charts athletic, and I think we knew had some offensive deficiencies he had to work on. He fouls out of the game with 11:30 to go, something like that. Kyan Anthony, 6 points in 17 minutes. Misses both of his threes. Had a nice steal and drive, but is he giving you the quality minutes that you need to get out of a talent like Kyan Anthony, which I don't really put on him? I put that more on some other things. Not that Kyan doesn't have some issues he's working through. He's a freshman, right? I don't want to rag too much on him. There's just a lot of pressure on his shoulders from the attention he gets otherwise, but you would hope that the natural progression in his game would get him to the point as you're flipping the calendar to the most important part of the schedule, by opponent, that his game would be better than this. Tyler Betsy off the bench, 1 3-pointer. This has not developed at the rate it needs to. And now you're running out of time for that to even matter. And again, I mean, what are we talking about? X's and O's, talking about basketball? I don't care, Brent. What's going on with the coach? Is he still the coach? Like, people are just going to check out. That's the reality of it. If you think I'm being too harsh, you think I'm being Mr. Negative or whatever you want to say, hey, whatever blows your hair back. That's the reality of the situation. It's the only conversation people are going to want to have, including our Syracuse Sports Insiders. See what you guys had to say. As being a Syracuse Sports Insider gives you direct text message access to me anytime. You guys know this. But really, you should know more about it. You should tell your friends about it. You should get your buddies, your SU basketball crew. Bring your group chat to our chat, right? We've got a passionate group of Syracuse sports fans that can talk to me anytime. Your questions, your opinions, your thoughts, just want to shoot the breeze, talk SU sports. I get questions all the time from people like, hey, Brent, what's your all-time starting five? Or like, hey, man, that's what I'm here for. We love having those conversations. Of course, you get breaking news. If I have breaking news, you get it first as a Syracuse Sports Insider. And we would just love to see this community get even bigger than it is now. But we love the insiders that are there now. And you guys are fired up for this game. So get in touch. All the information on your screen on how you can join and become a Syracuse Sports Insider. Just $3.99 a month. And you can try it free for 2 weeks. Check it out. Check it out and see what it's all about. Including Jake, not in 311 heaven tonight, but says, Brent, I'm not mad. I'm just sad. This is what the program is now. Bring on lacrosse. John B. says Autry has to go. Syracuse basketball is officially dead. The process of elimination, it's not a talent issue. Frankie F. says, not much to say here, Brent. It's just bad. It feels like there's no hope. He says it right here. Apathy is setting in. This is worse than anger. This is worse than booing and chanting. At least when people are booing and chanting, they care. What's happening now? And I know these guys. These are not random names. That's one of the cool things about being a Syracuse Sports Insider, too, is you guys stop me at games. We have conversations. I'm getting to know a lot of you personally, getting to know your families, and I just love hearing why you guys are as passionate about Syracuse sports as you are. I know these fans. These are not fair weather fans. These are not people that are just being trolls on social media. These are people that have put in time and money and passion and are as educated as it comes. And they're checking out. What does that tell you? Like this is Bruce K. Syracuse basketball program is such an embarrassment. When will Wildhack make a public statement that Autry will not be back? Richard B. What a contrast of coaching tonight. How many times did a state player get handed the ball under the rim for an uncontested jam? Pause for water break. And that's exactly the point. Quality shots. Time after time after time. They're getting quality shots. Syracuse is not. And the quality shot, it's almost like Syracuse was surprised when they got quality shots, and that's why they were missing them, right? Because it's just, there's no direction. There's no cohesion. There's no plan. There's just, they, remember, and I quote, there's nothing wrong with the offense. Remember that one? That was like a month ago, believe it or not. Excuse me? There's nothing wrong with the, I guess you're right in that there can be nothing wrong with something that doesn't exist. Is that what we're saying here? From Doug H. Brent, if someone created a drinking game, oh boy, based on how this team plays every single game, start slowly, drink. If they miss a defensive assignment, drink, etc., etc. People would be sauced by the first TV timeout. Look, you got to laugh to keep from crying because this team and its program are in a full-on death spiral. He makes a point, though. I know he's joking around there, but they are predictable. Autry does not outwin anybody. Name me a coach, and they're nice about it in the post-game press conferences, and they all compliment Red, and that's fine. Mike Young for Virginia Tech stands out to me. When he's standing there at the podium and somebody asked him, like, hey, what'd you do in the second half to, I can't remember exactly who they were talking about. He's like, yeah, nothing tricky. That's just it. They're not breaking out something where the entire coaching staff looks at each other like, what in the world is that? They have reinvented the game. No, they're just doing what they do. Mike S. Team looks bad, disorganized, mistake-prone, and poorly motivated. Awful coaching impact on the team. sorry state. I don't know if that's a pun there, but we'll let it go. Harrison T says, I think it's time to let Red go. This was embarrassing. A guy you didn't want to be the starting point guard just diced up your defense with little to no response. That's another thing, too. Like, yeah, JJ was John. Donnie was John. It's not like they didn't go at him. It's not like they didn't notice it. But that's just got to make it sting worse, man. And I can't quantify these things. There are things I just know and I see and I have a hard time describing. But I know I saw a team that wanted it more on the other side. I know I saw a team that, I don't want to say played harder, but played smarter, right? It's not about how hard you play. And that's, I haven't seen the post game from tonight, so I don't know if Autry said this or not. But Autry often goes back to the fight this team has, or we're going to go down fighting. And it's, man, that's baked in the cake. You're supposed to play hard. What we'd like to see is your team play smart, run an offense, outwit somebody, look like they know what they're doing. I saw that from NC State tonight, like I've seen in the last 4 games. First 4-game losing streak under Autry. It's actually amazing to say that out loud. Matty S. says this team is just missing it. They've got the players, but they just don't have it. Can mostly stay in games, but don't have that it factor to overcome sloppy play and put it together. Todd's had it. He says, literally calling my donor ticket agent tomorrow. My mind is made up. I will be using my discretionary income for something much different going forward. A lot of options out there. And if you're not getting that return on investment, you don't feel like Syracuse is taking you seriously, your money seriously. Ticket prices are only going up these days. If it's not worth the time and money that you're investing into it with players that are now getting paid, which changes the conversation, like it or not. I mean, I wouldn't give up yet, believe it or not, but I don't blame you if you are. It's your money. I'm always very careful with that. I don't want to tell people what to do with their money. If you don't feel like it's worth it to you, then I'm not going to beg you to come back. If you're Syracuse, though, you've got to do everything you can to keep those kind of dollars rolling in. Jeff asks a good question. He says, Brent, is there any chance that despite a disastrous tenure, they still might keep Autry simply because a post-Severud power vacuum cripples their ability to make a change? I'm going to say no, but it's possible. If they don't get their collective ish together here, get a chancellor in place who makes a decision about who the athletic director is going forward, what the athletic department looks like going forward, someone that can make a decision about a head coach, be in position to do a search for a head coach when you want to strike when the iron's hot in mid-March, when the tournament's going on. You might have to wait out a few guys, certainly, that are coaching in the tournament, but you want to have all your ducks in a row and ready to jump in. And it just becomes a question of the biggest debate I think we're going to have about this team going down the stretch is, do you stay in the family or not? Jerry McNamara, Mike Hopkins, or any number of names I said earlier and some that I did not. That is going to become the debate. Please prove me wrong. I would love for this team to prove me wrong and go on the heater of all heaters and make a run here and make this interesting and go down fighting till their last gasp with a chance to make the tournament, because that would be awesome. It would be a great story. It would lift the spirit of the community, and it would feel like Syracuse basketball again, which it is not for 5 years. A little longer than that if you really want to have that conversation. They did make the tournament in 2021, so there's like that blip, and made the Sweet 16. There's that blip there, but they have not been ranked since 2018. You know all the stats. You don't need Uncle Brent to give them to you again, right? So that's where I kind of still have to wonder. Like, will Syracuse handle this? Is what this whole conversation is becoming now. Will the powers that be handle this correctly? I know that members of that board of trustees know that Autry is kind of reaching the point where he's unsavable. I think they know that, but Jeff, it's a great question. We're in a weird transition period with Severud, a lame duck, and where they go from there. And you're going to have a whole new chancellor that's going to come in. And so how does that work? Because Severud's still technically the chancellor for the rest of the year, but once they name them, they're not going to wait till the end of the year. to name the new chancellor. I don't think you can. You've got to get that person in place and send the message to the university community who's in charge now. And like, that's a whole process. But we have to know what that person feels about athletics, which I get Syracuse University. It's got a lot of other great things going on, obviously, but athletics is pretty high on the list of things that you have to address at that first conversation with the public once you are named the chancellor. James L. says, I think it's safe to say that Quadir has improved as a player. Always had the great pass, always the great drive, but his shot and turnover rate is better. He's a different player. Look, shout out to Quadir, right? And Peter R. notes it too. I think Copeland just put a stake through the heart of the Autry era. Before we get to that one, shout out to Quadir. Seriously, like, made the most of what was essentially a third chance. It didn't work here. He gave us one of the great Syracuse basketball memories of the past few years with that game-winning buzzer beater shot against Miami. Great kid to deal with, fun player to watch. People could see the potential in his game, but he had a lot of growing up to do. And it just did not work here. And again, those were legitimate reasons. It's going to be hard for Autry to outrun that now because Quadir circled back and did what he did tonight. But there were legitimate reasons he could not stay here. Will Wade took a chance on him. Will Wade kicked him off the team for a period of about 4 or 5 days. But the point is that Will Wade got him right. Now, Will Wade's got some baggage too, guys. I've heard from some Syracuse fans that are like, Will Wade was out there, could have had him. You're not entirely wrong, but Will Wade's got some baggage too. Right? But Rick Pitino had some baggage. St. John's didn't care. Like, name me a perfect candidate these days. Jeff says Syracuse is getting embarrassed at this point. It's like you've been saying all year, Brent. No identity, no direction on offense, and they're just getting shredded defensively. See, that's the concerning thing, too. The defense is starting to wilt. Look at how this team played defense again. Now, I get it's a different time of the year, but how they played against Houston and how they played against Kansas and how they played against Tennessee and the numbers that they put up and the points off turnovers they were getting. And this was a good defensive team. You could see it. But now the zone is working its way back into the conversation. Things are wilting. Syracuse is getting more predictable defensively. We're in the heart of ACC play now, and that's not holding up. That's not holding up. So it's one thing, those other things that Jeff noted that this team has been. Now the defense is wilting. You can't even count on that. Rich P notes that he's happy for Copeland, too. He was smart to leave here, probably my favorite player from the last 6 or 7 years. Another deja vu Orange performance. And he says it's time to start thinking of next year. That's where everybody seems to be at here. Now, again, prove me wrong. Go out there and someone give the sports movie speech here. Great moments are born from great opportunity. Don't let me keep going because I know that whole speech. But they're out of time for that. The hourglass is out of sand. Please prove me wrong because it'll be a hell of a story. But you're going to come out in a game like this with everything on the line and lay an egg the way that you did again in the second half. We're starting to see the truth shine through. To the secret voicemail line. If you would like the secret voicemail line, well, being a Syracuse Sports Insider has its benefits. Here's voicemail number 1.
Hey, Brent, not that Jim B. It's a broken record. It's the same thing, game after game. We got smoked again in the second half. The offense is non-existent. We had 10 assists for the entire game, while NC State has 21. Got totally out-rebounded once again. And why we've done this in the last couple of games, this let's double the ball on defense above the three-point line. Well, if you're going to double, you better stop the guy, which they haven't. The guy just drives through the double team and then ends up with basically a 4-on-3 or a 4-on-2, and they were getting easy buckets. The team is just not well coached. I think they've got the athletic talent, but the basketball IQ, you just watch them play, you don't know what they're doing. That lull there, they call it the middle of the second half, it was every single possession was a one-on-one. It was either give the ball to JJ and he went to the basket and everyone stood around, or give it to Donnie and he tries to create something with everybody standing around. It's just very disappointing because I think they had some decent players this year, some decent athletes, and I think at the end of the year, this will be the year of what could have been. It's just sad. I think maybe just turn the page and hope that the lacrosse team can live up to expectations. I think it could be an exciting year.
Thank you, Not That Jim B. Terrific voicemail, one of your best. And Jim calls the voicemail line pretty much every game. I think I mentioned it earlier, but pardon if I didn't. I mean, we've talked about the lack of ball movement, but to hear it put into perspective there by citing those assist numbers, 21 assists for NC State. So they had 21 assists on 33 field goals. 21 assists on 33 field goals. Syracuse had 10 assists on 26 field goals. Like, this isn't hard to move the ball and create better offensive opportunities. We all see it. How come they don't? Voicemail number 2.
Hey, Brent. Doc L from Kentucky calling in. I call this game the curse of Quadir. The irony here is that Coach Red, a former point guard, somehow did not recognize what the announcer called a, quote, elite playmaker, end quote, right under his very nose and ran him out of the program, not promising him a chance for point guard the following season. Instead, he's replaced successively by Daquan Carlos and Nate George. And ultimately, this poor play at point guard over the last couple of seasons will be a major factor in costing Red his job, along with the fact that he did not recognize the player that Quadir was right under his very nose. Tough to watch, but I was glad to see Quadir play well.
Thank you, Doc. Appreciate that voicemail. Look, again, there were reasons Quadir had to go. Let's be fair about this. Doesn't mean tonight didn't happen. And when he had the chance, and Quadir did say it was his choice to leave, but it was still personal what was happening tonight. So that was kind of an interesting statement to make, but obviously it was. And he absolutely got the best of Syracuse. And we'll have that in his back pocket no matter what. No matter what the future holds here, where he goes, what he does, that could be the highlight of his career. You didn't want me, however that came about, which some of that's on him, but however that played out, he got his revenge, right? Sometimes the stories write themselves. We'll see if Chris Bell does the same thing in a couple weeks. Thanks for hanging tonight, guys. Great voicemails, great texts, great to hear from our insiders throughout the game. Always appreciate everybody that comes and hangs on the pod. Please subscribe if you haven't on Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Follow, subscribe. So if you can't watch the show live after games on our live post-game shows, you can listen and watch on demand when you want. So we'll be back Saturday after Notre Dame. A few of you have asked, we are going to get the recorded pods going again. I've had to figure out, I don't want to bore you here, but I've had to figure out a technical issue on that. Knock on wood, thankfully, the live pods have been going great, and we've been doing that. So once I kind of squirrel away that technical issue, we'll get the recorded pods going more, have some conversations, and get that going here. Some of you have asked, okay, let's just do an experiment here, live on the pod. Some of you have asked about doing some post-game shows after women's basketball games, especially now that football season's winding down, because frankly, one of the reasons we didn't do post-game shows for the women was they play on a lot of NFL Sundays. And look, I love the women's basketball team, but I'm watching my Bills. Don't get me going on the Joe Brady thing. Just don't don't let me do it. Right. But there was a lot of conflicts, right? There were just conflicts where, like, I'm not going to do a post-game show on an NFL Sunday, but there's enough interest. We might do that. I don't know if I'm going to do lacrosse yet, but look, you guys are the boss. If you tell me on the text line and otherwise that you want post-game shows for those two sports, then that's something we're going to have to consider doing, because you, the people, you're the boss. So you let me know. we'll think about that, especially if this men's basketball team keeps sliding down the hill here and people just don't want to talk about anything else but that coach's job for the next month. It'll be a nice break to talk about something else. So, hey, suggestion box is always open. That's the beauty of being a Syracuse Sports Insider. You can fire off a text to Uncle Brent. Shout out to my guy Clark, one of the biggest Syracuse women's basketball fans out there, politely asked me a lot to have more content from that team, including maybe doing he doesn't even want a live post-game show. He's like, hey, can you just do some more pods on the women's team? Hey, man, you guys are the boss. If you're an insider, you can always let me know what you want to hear on the pod, what you want to talk about, what questions you want me to ask players and coaches, and share your opinions, your insight, your analysis. And if you're at games, please come say hello. Come find Uncle Brent. Let's talk. Let's hang. Love meeting our insiders. Has been doing it pretty much every home game this year. And we got lacrosse coming up. So all my Lax fans, come say hello. Man, I can't wait for lacrosse. I am so excited to cover that team. So many interesting stories on that team, and I think they're going to be pretty darn good. But that's all to come. That's it for tonight's show, though. Syracuse loses to NC State. 88-68 is your final. The Orange have lost 4 in a row for the first time in the Autry era. I know we'll be back Saturday after Syracuse takes on Notre Dame. That's our next post-game show. We'll talk to you then, guys.